So whenever you look at the needle, I would like you to divide it into three portions. The first 1/3, the second 1/3, and this is the swage end of the needle, and this is the tail. Here you have a very long tail. So the easiest, most simple technique for you to pick up a needle is, you just put the needle in a forward direction. So here you can see, you try to put the needle in a forward direction, and after that, you just take it to the second half of the needle with the open needle holder jaw. You press the needle holder on the pad on which you're going to suture now. See, I'm pressing on it. The same method, I'm going to open it, and I'm going to apply a pressure over here, and after pressure, I'm just holding the needle. You can see it is already in a driving position. Once you pronate and supinate, you can make sure that it is in a good position to take a bite. So if you are able to go at 90-degree angle, that means you have held the needle at a proper place, and you can take a very good bite. Once again, I'll just show it to you. This is the most simplest way to do it. See, now the needle is lying down. It's not 3D, but still you can appreciate it's not straight up. So once again, we go to the spot where we want to hold the needle. That is 1/3 from the tail end of the needle, from the swage end, and here you press on the instrument and you pick up the needle. See, already it is in a very good driving position. So this is the simplest way to pick up a needle. But having said that, when you have intestines, it is not always easy to do this. You will keep poking the intestines. So that a little more advanced way of picking up a needle is something called as the flagging of the needle. So here we try to hold the thread at a point around 2 centimeters from the swage end of the needle, and you leave it. So now it is there. You want to take a forward direction or you want to take a reverse, you can adjust the needle however you want. After that, again, whenever you're using a needle holder, this is the area where you should hold the needle. So here we are going and holding the needle, but I'm not yet locking my instrument. See, I'm checking for the driving position. I don't like it. So I can change it. I can change it. If I want to do a reverse also, I can change it. It doesn't matter. So this locking of the needle and holding the needle is a kind of a skill which you have to develop by practicing on your endo trainers. It's not very simple and straightforward. Once again, you can see we can adjust the direction of the needle how we want. If I want to do the same thing with my left hand, which is a Maryland, which is always good because you have curved instruments. When you have curved instruments, it's relatively easier to suture. So that time, whenever you have a left hand instrument holding the needle, it should be in the proximal 1/3, not in the distal 1/3. And here again, 2 centimeters away from the swage end, you can adjust the needle however you want. If I want a backhand, I can hold it like that. It's not a problem at all. So you can just go and you can hold it. You can take a backhand bite. On the anterior abdominal wall, it is always much easier to take a backhand bite than a forehand. Or sometimes when you do a posterior kind of a suturing also, it is easy to do that. So here you can again take the help of the tissue and you can pick up a needle. So this pretty much ends up the ways of doing and picking up a needle. These are the two techniques you should know. With this you can manage any surgery, it doesn't matter. So once again, we try to go at a perpendicular line. You try to take a bite, and this pronation, supination is important. Don't try to push the needle too much. Just for your awareness, this pad is not stuck to the paper below. If it moves a lot, that means I'm not doing something right. So then when I hold the needle, I make sure my left instrument goes close by to the exit point. I apply pressure and I just pronate again. So if I do that, that means the needle comes in the natural direction. There is not too much of a pressure or stress associated with it. So then again you hold with your left hand and keep pulling the thread. You want to make the short tail come as close to you as possible. During your initial phases, probably you can be a little more liberal with the length you're going to leave for your short tail. But once you get comfortable and experienced, it's better to leave a length of this much. Because if you try to keep it long, then you have to move all the way there to pick up the thread, which is always cumbersome, and then your knot also would slip from the instrument. So now you try to orient it in a side direction, which will always be easier. So now the short tail is towards the right of me, right? So my needle holder is in the right hand. When that is the case, the thread also has to be held by the instrument which is on the short tail end. So if the tail is on the right, I hold the thread with the right instrument. So now you can see already there is a alphabet forming over here. This is something like I think probably a hybrid C, because it's not a proper C, but We have taken a bike from, anterior and kind of posterior or superior to inferior. That's why the direction change is there, but it doesn't matter. So this is like a C, imaginary C. You hold it with your right hand, then you bring your left hand. Left hand doesn't move at all. You leave the left hand in the same spot. Use your right hand to wrap the thread around the left hand. So this is all you have to do. How many ever bites you want, you can take. Once you do the double wrapping, then you have to move both the instruments close by. There is no point in taking only one instrument. So here we take both the instruments close to the tail. You try to hold the tail, and then you just knot it. So once you're trying to knot, again try to move the needle holder close by and try to put a square knot. So now you can see this knot is a perfect square knot. And once you have a square knot, the next thing which you have to do is see where the short tail is. So now the short tail is towards the left of me. So here you can see the short tail. So naturally the thread is going to be held by my left instrument. So now this is a reverse C. So reverse C, or if you put an imaginary line, it's like a D. So this is the configuration which you want. So once you have this, you again have a short tail on the left side. You hold the thread with your left instrument, and then you see the loop. This loop, always don't keep it down. Try to keep it up. And it's always preferable you hold it at the tip of the instrument. If you hold it somewhere else, suturing always becomes difficult. And the next thing which you have to do is, once this configuration is there, once again, keep your needle holder stationary, wrap around with the instrument which is holding the thread. So if you want 3, 4, how many ever you want, you can keep doing it. It doesn't matter. So this is what you need to aim at. So when you're doing this, you have a couple of tricks. So this is a Maryland. You can see the curvature. If you keep a thread like this at the bottom and you try to suture, I showed you how easily it was done. Whereas here, if you see, it'll all keep slipping away. So whenever you're trying to take the suture, you just slightly turn it up. So the thread comes slightly on the top, like a superior to inferior kind of a configuration. When you do that, then it doesn't slip at all. So here you can see, once again, we are taking the same 2 bites. It doesn't slip at all. And you can even turn the needle holder up if you want to prevent any slippage of the thread from happening. So this is again another trick which you have to follow. The third one is to make sure that this thread is always perpendicular to the instrument. When the thread is like this, and if I try to take a bite, it will most of the time slip off. Here I have a liberal thread, that's why it doesn't slip off. But generally, practically, it always slips off. So once again, what you have to do that is make sure this thread is perpendicular to the instrument holding it, such a manner that it becomes very easy. So once again, after taking a single bite, you just go and hold the short tail and pull the thread in the opposite direction. Again, you have formed a square knot. If you form a square knot and the short tail again is towards the right of you, it's the same configuration. You leave the C, you hold the thread somewhere here with your right instrument. So now again you have a C and you have a short tail. So you make sure that the thread is slightly on the top end portion. You keep pulling the thread to make sure that it is perpendicular, and use the instrument which is holding the thread to wrap. Don't move your left hand. Once you have done the knotting, how much ever you require, then move both the instruments. Only one instrument, then it will get tight or it will slip off. And once you hold the thread, the other key important thing to do is, you hold the thread, don't tighten it immediately, pull the thread to the opposite side. Leave the thread, come somewhere close by and pull it in the opposite direction. So now again you have one more square knot. Same configuration, you have the thread on the left side. So my left instrument is holding the long thread. You have a reverse C configuration, wrap it around my needle holder and you complete the knot or you complete the suture. So this way you can do how much ever you want. So there you could see my movements were a little crude and the suture pad was starting to lift off. So this is basically about suturing. There's nothing really magical to it. Once you understand the science of it, it becomes much easier.